presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are Ohio.
It is simply another marvelous weather night in Cincinnati, and we welcome you to Great American Ballpark. Crowd rolling in for Game 2 of this 3-game series. One more tomorrow afternoon. Reds tonight try to even this set at a game apiece after getting shut out yesterday. Hi again, everybody. Alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day, I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Reds Baseball. You know, we've talked so much about Jose Peraza, going all the way back to spring training. The first time he came up, Chris, we didn't see him a lot. We're seeing a lot more of him now, and there's a lot to like.
Well, there is, and you can like his batting average, you can like his on-base percentage, you can like the way he hits when he gets 2 strikes on you. But really what he's done lately, especially when you go back to August the 20th, when he started getting some playing time, you're going to really see him really have good stage presence at the plate. That's what I like most about Peraza. He's got an idea on how to hit the ball up the middle. He knows what the scouting reports say about pitchers, and he changes his approach when he gets 2 strikes, and I really like that a lot.
Peraza in the lineup again tonight for the injured Billy Hamilton. Meanwhile, on the mound is Brandon Finnegan. Now, here's a guy when the season began. Some questioned, is he a starter? Is he a reliever? Well, you look up now, Chris, and he started more games and pitched more innings than anybody in this rotation.
I think he was the one guy that never questioned that himself. He wants to be a starter, I can guarantee you that. And Brandon Finnegan has a newfound pitch, and I'm not saying that went 8 starts ago, but it really started with him 8 starts ago when he was in San Diego and started a shutout out there. He's pitched the ball very well. He's gone into the 7th inning most of the time and really gone full 6 innings in all but one of his last 8 starts. He's been really, really good. That changeup has helped him tremendously keep hitters off his fastball, and you're going to see that as a very important pitch tonight.
What do we know about his mound opponent, Rafael Montero?
Well, he's a hard thrower, but not overpoweringly hard thrower. He's a guy that was on the disabled list most of last year. They had him penciled in to be a reliever, but he's getting a second start now. Look at the 6 walks, though, he had his last time out against Miami. So he's got a good arm. He can strike you out, but he may not be able to throw 3 strikes before he throws 4 balls.
All right, we're going to toss the ball from the booth down to our main man standing by, hanging out down there talking right now. In fact, with Joey and Brandon and company is Jim Day. You're watching Reds Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio.
I was brought to you by Skyline Chili. Feeling good? It's Skyline time.
Boy, it is going to be a warm and muggy night at the ballpark. Temperatures are going to be in the 80s most of the game. We get rid of those clouds that we had earlier this evening, and we'll fall through the 80s into the 70s by the end of the game. Let's go Reds. This one's going in the river.
Nicely done. I'm Jim Day. On the field. You know, the New York Mets yesterday, Robert Stevenson pitched a pretty good game, but the home run ball did him in, a couple of solo shots. And the New York Mets rely on the home run ball, particularly when they're facing these Reds. They have a 12-game winning streak overall against Cincinnati, and they've hit 19 home runs during that 12-game winning streak. And 6 of those games, they've had 2 or more home runs. So the long ball, they use to their advantage. If you look at our Elk and Elk storylines, highest percentage of runs via the home run in the National League, far and away, the New York Mets rely on it the most. 53.2% of their runs come via the home run. It'll be Brandon Finnegan's job to keep the ball in the park tonight. It's game 2 of a 3-game set. Reds and Mets coming up on your home for Reds baseball, Fox Sports Ohio. And with the call, standing by, Tom Brenneman and Chris Welsh.
Forget, we've watched him all year long, Chris, but this young man, Brandon Finnegan, just turned 23 years old the first week of the season. This has been a rock-solid first full year in the major leagues as a starter.
You're exactly right about that. And, you know, it seemed like early in the year he did it solely on will and desire. I mean, he came at hitters with 100% effort. More, though, as throughout the whole season, he's beginning to turn himself into quite a pitcher, changing speeds, mixing in his slider, and he's barely been nice to watch the last few times out. One thing about Finnegan, he doesn't give up very many hits, and he usually strikes out.
See the opponent's batting average against Finnegan at .232. He has surrendered the 27 home runs, and he'd like to cut down on the number of walks at 72. And here's a New York Mets lineup he'll be facing. This is their A lineup, or at least the players they have available right now. Reyes at third. They brought him back from Colorado. Cabrera, the shortstop. Cespedes out in left field. Flores at first. Jay Bruce in right. Arnaud catching. And the latter third of Granderson, Reynolds, who had a big day yesterday, and Montero. Terry Collins' team swept the Cubs in the National League Championship Series a season ago, but then they were run over by the ultimately the world champion Kansas City Royals in 5 games. I think everybody is still surprised at what happened in that fall classic. You look at the wild card, the Giants a half game better than the Cardinals, but for that second and final slot, these Mets 1 game behind St. Louis. Boy, it's tight. So here we go. Jose Reyes came up originally with the New York Mets. Had a number of outstanding seasons. Wound up in the big trade going to Toronto, then on another big deal to Colorado, and ran into some off the field problems, major problems, and wound up being available, came back to the Mets, and here he is getting regular playing time, what with all the injuries they've had in their infield. Fastball up and away, and this one underway. 2-0. Nick Lenz, a home plate umpire. Mark Ripperger. We'll try that again. Ripperger is at first base. That's a mouthful. Joe West, the crew chief, at second. And Andy Fletcher, the umpire, working at third. 2-0. In there, a strike. And now falling behind 3-1 is Finnegan to Reyes. Since coming off the disabled list, Reyes has hit better than 300 and on base percentage of .370. Getting the nod tonight at third base. Full count.
Wow, there was a time that Jose Reyes was really the toast of the town in New York. When he first signed with the Mets, he came on the scene. He batted over 300 his first year, had really one really solid year after another, and speed was a lot of his game. Now routinely have 15 to 20 triples a year. He'd have 35 doubles a year. He'd have a bunch of stolen bases. He'd oftentimes go up over 60 stolen bases a year. In fact, he had a high water mark of 78 stolen bases, but that was 8 years ago. So he still has some speed, but nowhere what he once was.
3 balls, 2 strikes on Reyes, leading off the game, and Finnegan turns it loose, and Reyes works a walk. Reyes 6 steals and 8 attempts so far this year since being activated from the DL. We look at the Reds on defense, presented by Ford, and again Peraza continues to fill in for Billy Hamilton. We'll check in with Jim Day here momentarily, get an update on Billy Hamilton. Duvall and Schebler in left and right. Suarez, a night off day. Jesus starts at third. Peraza, another 2-hit day yesterday, has been right around a .500 batter in over 50 at-bats since being brought up from the minor leagues on August 20th. Clobbered foul by Asdrubal Cabrera, the longtime Indian. And he's playing like the Cabrera that once starred for the Tribe. He's having a good year. 19 home runs, 48 batted in. Reds trying to end this misery against the New York Mets. Reds have lost each of the last 12 games against the Mets, going all the way back to September the 6th. That's right, September the 6th. That's today. 2 years ago was the last time the Reds beat them. 2-1. Johnny Cueto won that game. Chapman saved it. Frazier and Heisey homered. But since then, all Mets. In fact, you throw in that 1 win, and then Mets had won the 5 games prior to that. So 17 of the last 18. Votto there to get it, 1 away.
You know, Brandon Finnegan has come such a long way this year. The next step really for Finnegan to make himself from where he is now, which is a solid major league pitcher, to a guy that can dominate,
and he certainly has the stuff to be able to do that, is to become his own pitching coach on the mound. Adapt as a hitter would do from one at bat to the other. How a pitcher is pitching you, well, the way the hitters adapt to him is what he has to do. But more than that, it's what he does with his own delivery. Has to learn where he is, where his release point is, and how to make changes on the fly.
Here's Cespedes, 27 home runs, extremely powerful slugger. The 27th, 8th most in the National League. And boy, this guy has worn out left-handed pitching. In just 75 at bats, a .347 batter with 6 home runs.
Well, you're right about this being the A lineup, because the first two in the game that we've seen tonight were not in the game yesterday. So Terry Collins has got to figure he got away with one yesterday by playing his B team, if you want to call it that, and ended up with a victory. That's what good pitching will do for you.
Yeah, the quartet of Colon, Robles, Blevins, and Salas combining on an 8-hit shutout. 8th time this year, 9th time now the Reds have been shut out. It was the 11th thrown by the Mets. Well, this guy takes a cut, doesn't he?
Boy, he sure does. And you know what? A guy that takes a big cut like that, he's got great plate coverage. You're better off changing speeds and trying to work the ball in and out.
But throw down there, and if that ball's not in the dirt, they maybe have a shot at Reyes. 0-2 on Cespedes. Chris brought up earlier, you go back to the game in San Diego. Finnegan was coming off an outing on the 24th of July against the Diamondbacks, where in 5 innings he gave up 6 runs. He had failed to reach the 7th inning for over a month and a half. And in the overwhelming majority of each of those starts, he was giving up 3, 4, as many as 8, as many as 6 runs per start. Did not have a single quality start for a month and a half. Well, that day in San Diego on the 29th of July, 6 innings, 4 hits, no runs in a win over the Padres. Followed that 6 innings, no runs against St. Louis. Gave up 3 in 6 innings against the Cardinals on a return visit. The lone hiccup was the 4 runs in 5 1/3 against Miami. Everything else has been no runs or 2 runs since.
Yeah, you know, the other part of that, Tom, is that you look at the number of pitches he throws in each of those ball games. Not only is he giving up 3 runs in 5 innings, but he's throwing 95 pitches. So, I mean, those are 95 pitches that are under stress. So if you're trying to take care of a young man's arm, and you are with Brandon Finnegan, you can't let him go out there any deeper. But he's got that burning desire inside to start, you know, to finish what he starts. He's that kind of a bulldog mentality.
You said that about him the very first time we saw him in spring training. Check swing. It looked like he went around. That's because he did. And it's strike 3. 2 outs in the inning.
Boy, what an advantage of selling a changeup like a fastball. No better example than right here. This ball is way outside. I mean, not even close to being a strike. You see how Barnhart has to move out of the catcher's box to even catch that thing. But at some point, it looked like it might be a strike to Cespedes, and he ends up taking the hack at it and getting a strikeout.
So that brings up Flores. He hit in the 3 spot yesterday. Cleanup spot today. He's only played in 99 games. He has 15 home runs and 47 runs batted in. We brought up earlier the Mets have lost to injury 3/4 of their original starting infield. Duda gone at first. Recently Neil Walker having a big year, gone at second. He'll undergo back surgery. David Wright has had neck surgery. So the lone man standing is Cabrera, the shortstop. And yet Terry Collins' team is right there in the very thick of it all. Isn't it funny about managers? And Collins is an example, and there are others. But he was a guy, the wonder kid. Remember, he got his first managerial job so young. Everybody thought he'd be a great manager for a long, long time. Had a couple of tries, Anaheim, Houston, and then waited and waited and waited for another chance. And he's made the most of it in New York, doing it his way.
And he'll tell you that he's a changed man. I mean, he was a young man that was drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates back in 1971. Played a lot of years down at AAA and in the minor leagues. You know, so he never really did much in the major league. So he retires as a player and becomes a coach. So he works his way right on up that way. And he was intense and very much the way he was as a minor league player. And you see players like this, guys that they just can't turn the faucet down, because if they do, they're afraid somebody else is going to pass them up. And he let that personality kind of bleed over in his managerial days. And there were a lot of people that said, man, this guy's just too intense to manage people. And you talk to him now, and it's a completely different man. Very grounded. And what he's done with this ball club this year has been tremendous to keep them in the race under the pressure that you have in New York.
In the air, foul territory, and Votto with room, and that will end the inning. So another excellent start after walking the first batter. Finnegan retires the next three. So Joey, a big smile over there. And he'll come to bat when we come back. Things begin with Jose Peraza, followed by Zach Cozart and Joey Votto. Adam Duvall in left, Brandon at second, and Schebler in right. De Jesus has started third tonight. Barnhart catching Brandon Finnegan. 25 years old. Has not been in the big leagues for more than 3 outings this season. Is 25-year-old native Dominican Rafael Montero.
He did make his debut a couple of years ago, so he's been up and down. He missed just about all of last year with a shoulder injury. And they were hoping with his arm that they would be able to bring him up last year and help out in the bullpen. That did not happen. And they figure, though, long term, he may be a contender for the starting rotation, even as good as this rotation is.
Well, I tell you what, he's put up very, very good minor league numbers. Here's a high fly ball. Cespedes will drip back to the track. And Peraza retired. You know, he's slugged a lot of innings. Talk more about that in a moment. First of all, though, let's check in with our main man, Jim Day.
Zach Cozart coming to the plate, and he is coming to the plate with the Florida State fight song. He indeed lost a little wager with the other players on the team as his team went down to defeat Ole Miss to Florida State. So there it is.
I tell you what, I went to bed last night. It was halftime, and Ole Miss was ahead 28-6. I'm sure many of you checked it out last night. I mean, it looked like Cozart's Rebels were we're going to blow them out of the gym. And by the time the 9-minute mark of the third quarter, 6 minutes into the second half, Florida State led for good. I'm sure there was a lot of texting, Jim, going on with Cozart and some of his pals.
Well, he's kind of outnumbered, I'd imagine, right? Because he's the only guy in the clubhouse that went to Mississippi. And you have Tyler Holt and Rafi Lopez, who are both Florida State Seminoles, so they ganged up on him a little bit last night.
And Montero gangs up on him right now. That's a strikeout, 2 up, 2 down.
The first baseman, number 19, Joey Votto.
Ford presents the New York Mets defense. Granderson, Cespedes, Bruce, the solid outfield. Reyes, Cabrera, Reynolds, Flores, third to first. Darno hanging the signs. We were starting to mention the numbers Montero has put up in the minor leagues, and there's a bouncer right against the shift, an easy base hit for Votto. That'll teach him. But a 3.2 ERA, Chris, 15 games over 500 in nearly 600 minor league innings.
Well, they signed him as a very young man, the Mets did, out of San Cristobal in the Dominican Republic. And when he first came over here to pitch, actually he was 20 years old. So he made his way through the minor leagues. The one thing that they worry about with him is that I guess they categorize him as a nibbler, a guy that can throw strikes but sometimes doesn't really attack the hitters the way you want him to. And he walked 6 batters his last time out. Remarkably, they didn't come around to score. So they had a talk with him and said, hey, you know what, up here you're not going to get the guys swinging at those pitches that are 2 inches off the plate. You've got to actually throw the ball over the plate. So they're hoping that that will make a difference to him.
This guy's windup is almost identical to the former Dodgers standout Ramon Martinez, older brother of Pedro Martinez. Sort of a stiff back and falls off to the first base side.
And a very long arm motion. I was trying to think of who he reminded me of. Yes, Ramon Martinez, yeah, and Pedro Astacio is another guy who kind of falls into that category.
And they were teammates for a long time there. Physically, he certainly resembles Astacio much more than the more fair-skinned Martinez. If Astacio would have spent his entire career with the Dodgers, he would have been one of the best Dodger pitchers, top 10, 15 of all time. But he went to Colorado. He'd log those innings, give up a lot of runs, but he was a gamer. Three and two on Adam Duvall. 29 home runs for Duvall, 85 runs batted in. Carries a .244 batting average. And now the payoff pitch, Votto running. And a breaking ball is fouled off and out of play. Told you Montero began the year all the way in Double-A in Binghamton, New York. Made 9 starts there, dominated the league. Only gave up 12 runs in 49 plus innings. Did not pitch well in Las Vegas. Not many people do pitch well in Las Vegas. He was ultimately sent back down to Binghamton. And then he got it back together. And, you know what, with all the injuries, we talked about some of the infield. I mean, you could talk from now until next week about their much ballyhooed young starting rotation. Harvey injured, Matt injured, DeGrom ineffective. They're wondering, is he injured? Don't know when he'll pitch again. 8th pitch of the at bat, and it's a walk. Good at bat there by Duvall.
Well, Duvall is doing what the Reds really need to do against this young man, because he will walk you if you give him an opportunity. You foul off some tough pitches, and Duvall picks up his 18th walk in 43 games. Mets really aren't sure what they're going to get out of Montero tonight. I mean, they're hoping to get 5 innings or so out of him. He's been stretched out, should be able to go longer than that if he can contain him. But you can see, you know, when you're running Rafael Montero out in September in a pennant race, when you have the rotation that you thought you were going to have going, I mean, he wouldn't be seeing the light of day right now, at least not as a starter.
Ball 1 to Brandon Phillips. 283 hitter, 9 home runs, 53 runs batted in. Most of his damage has been done, you see, since Independence Day. Better than a 340 hitter with 13 doubles. Single by Votto, walk to Duvall after the first 2 were retired in the inning. And now a ball and a strike on Brandon Phillips. Muscled into shallow center field. Inning over. 2 left, end of 1, no score.
I think that if you ask them, you know, we had a really good relationship, and a lot of great things happened here with the Reds and myself. And, you know, I grew from a kid to a man with a family here, and as professionally, off the field as well. So, you know, and a lot of those people involved still saw that from day one, from the time it started. So I think that, you know, the relationship goes a lot deeper than just playing baseball on the field with me.
Some of the comments made by longtime Red, former #1 pick going all the way back to 2005, Jay Bruce, who for the first time yesterday came into this ballpark and put on a visitor's uniform over in the third base side of the tunnel underneath. A lot of people excited to see him, teammates, front office. fans. And the Mets really need the Jay Bruce who is playing for the Reds rather than the one who, at least through a month of baseball in New York, is having a hard time. 202 hitter with the Mets. And only 4 of his overall 29 home runs this season. One ball, 2 strikes, and Finnegan a slight step back, delivers low and outside. Understand a huge Reds fan out in the Bay Area watching the ball game tonight. David Benzer, cancer survivor, has done some incredible work since beating that terrible disease at different hospitals all across the country, and he's dialed in tonight. Hope you're doing well, Benny. Popped up. Third base side, 1 out.
Good to know that, Tom, because the bow tie that I'm wearing here on this very special Bow Tie Tuesday night is a American Cancer bow tie. Really an honor in getting ready for the Strider's Ball coming up in the early part of November out there at the Greater Cincinnati Airport. And if you're interested in finding out how you can get a bow tie just like this or get out there to the Strider's Ball, you can go to stridersball.org. and part of the American Cancer Society.
Good for you. Good stuff. Good stuff. It's a very dapper bow tie, I might add.
Oh, thank you. Bow ties are a little warmer than regular ties. Because a regular tie like you've done here, you can loosen it up.
Sure.
Undo your top button. Bow ties don't work like that.
Unless you have the clip on.
Well, you know, you got something there. You're right. You're always one step ahead.
But see, you're the big leaguer. I mean, for those of you that don't remember, the longtime president at both Ohio State and Vanderbilt, and now the president at West Virginia University, your good friend and mine, Dr. Gordon Gee, who has famously donned a bow tie for better than 30, 40 years. And you challenged him to a bow tie tying contest a few years ago here at the ballpark, and I think you wore the old boy out.
I did. I actually won. He wanted to call it in favor of him based on a technicality, and I thought maybe you were his representative and wanted a rematch. So
I had your back all the way on that one.
It was fun. Good guy. He told me that he has 10,000 active bow ties and already 5,000 retired.
Come on.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Wow. Well, we hope Dr. Gee is doing well. I know they miss him in Columbus, but he's doing a great job there in Morgantown. 2 up, 2 down, and here's Curtis Granderson. Here's a guy that's had just a terrific major league career. Looks at a strike on the inside corner. Now, he struggled this year. I mean, they have been on him like nobody's business, as you would expect in New York, about hitting, and especially hitting in the clutch. Overall, a .222 batter, and it's just been miserable with runners in scoring position. He had a big home run the other day, and they're hoping that maybe that can kind of jumpstart him over the final month and then into October baseball. But always been a good guy off the field, good guy in the clubhouse, good player. 35 years old. And you see what he's done during this Mets 12-game winning streak against the Reds. How about those numbers? Pretty good.
You know, interesting really to have Bruce and Granderson in the same lineup, separated by just one player, d'Arnaud, who hit in between them. Because the way I look at them, if I'm sizing up Bruce and Granderson, they're the same guy for me at the plate. You throw them inside with fastballs, breaking balls down, and when you're in a slump the way they are, they'll oftentimes just chase. Now, Bruce didn't chase any of the sliders, nor has Granderson yet. Got a little hanger right there, was out in front of it to pull a foul.
And if you hang one to Granderson, even with a left-hander in the mound, he can hit it in seats. 23 home runs.
He's hit as many as 43 in a year. That was when he was over with the crosstown Bronx Bombers.
In the air, deep right center field. We said he can leave the yard. He just did. Only the second left-handed batter this season to homer off Finnegan, and he's now given up 28 long ones on the year.
You know, I've always said that lefty on lefty, the left-handed hitter becomes a better high ball hitter than a low ball hitter. And here that pitch is right up around the letters.
Why?
I really don't know. I just have noticed that over the years, and you know, it just seems to be true that sometimes left-handers, maybe they just stay away from that down and in slot, which is the notorious wheelhouse for lefties. But I think that'd be an excellent spot for a changeup for Finnegan on Granderson or Jay Bruce for that matter. Use that changeup against lefties the same way Johnny Cueto used it a lot on right-handers. I think it really opens up the strike zone when you can do that. Well, this guy made a name for himself yesterday, didn't he, Matt Reynolds? Opposite field home run the first time, picked up 3 hits overall.
Three and one now to Reynolds. They clubbed that home run his first time up to right center in the 3rd. Knocked in a run with a single, scored in the 7th, and then had an infield hit in the 9th. On the day he was brought back from the minor leagues. Finnegan walks him after the home run to Granderson. That's 2 walks by Finnegan.
You know, it looks like to me that Brandon Finnegan may be a little bit too strong tonight. Not necessarily from velocity standpoint, although his fastball seems to be up a little bit. You know, sometimes you get out there and you feel stronger, but you don't have the feel. And you may not get that feel until the 3rd or 4th inning. But he's obviously battling himself a little bit.
So now the pitcher, Montero. Strike 1 on the inside corner.
Funny how you raise the bar of expectation. You say he's battling himself a little bit. A couple of walks and a home run in the first 2 innings. But other than that, they really haven't done much. It's not like they're peppering the ball all over the ballpark on him.
Pretty hardy cut right there by young Mr. Montero.
He's loose now.
Got to line up all those bone chips in the back after that swing. That ball is hit pretty well. It's into right center field, caught out there by Peraza, but the long ball gets New York on the board off the bat of Granderson.
By authority of the Cincinnati Reds, it may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Follow Reds Baseball live with the MLB.com at Bat app. You can stay up to the moment at any moment with game day, live game, video highlights, StatCast, so much more. The #1 app for live baseball on your phone or tablet. Reds come to bat against Rafael Montero, last of the second inning, trailing 1-0 on a Curtis Granderson home run in the top of this frame. Schebler to be followed by DeJesus and Tucker Barnhart. Reds stranded 2 in the first inning, a hit and a walk. In the air, left field, easy for Cespedes, and the Reds right fielder is out to start this second inning. Well, the Cardinals pounded the Pirates yesterday. Pirates have lost 7 in a row, and they're in the third inning tonight, and the Cardinals are all over them again. 4-0 St. Louis. Nationals trailing early on 3-0 to Atlanta, and the Marlins, a team who, boy, if you just win one more game a week over the last 3.5-4 weeks, and that's how long they've been slumping, they'd be a game out of the wild card right now, and they're still in it, 4.5 back.
They're another team that has been dealt just one major injury after another. Of course, their big guy, Giancarlo Stanton, done for the year just about the time he was coming on. Oh, is he not done for the year, ready to come back? Well, that would be a big boost to them. I thought
if he's healthy.
I thought the groin pull that he had was something that they thought at first was going to sideline him all year long.
Yes. But I don't think he's going to be anywhere near 100%. But you'll take what you can get.
So he's only going to hit him 450 instead of 550.
That's right. It's a big difference. You're that guy that paid to sit around the 500 seat, foot mark, you're out of luck.
Yeah, or you don't have to park as far away anymore from the stadium when they have the roof open.
They're talking about Stanton just pinch hitting, basically. I don't think he's going to be well enough to, or they don't think he'll be well enough to play regularly. And, really the Marlins situation, getting away from the injuries for a moment, but, it really is the way that oftentimes you'll look back on a year, on a season where maybe you're in the wild card or you're in the hunt for a divisional title, and you'll struggle for so long, and you just say, if we could have won one more game per week. So look at these, what I'm talking about. Just in the last 2+ weeks. Look at the Marlins, look at the Pirates, look at the Giants. And the Mets have gone from a team that some were not maybe proclaiming dead, but they were being, right on that border of being out of it by many, pronounced out of it. And because they go on a good run while everybody's hurt, all those other teams sub 500, Cardinals 1 game under, there they are. So you say if you're the Marlins, instead of 5 wins, if you had 8, you're 3 back. Strike 3 called. Good pitch by Montero.
That may be the best slider he's thrown tonight. The other thing that chart shows me, though, Tom, is that I know managers try to instill a little bit of urgency in the early parts of the year. But if you just play better baseball in April and May, pick up a couple of extra wins a month, don't let this game get away from you just because you're down by a couple of runs early. You know, really grind it out. You don't have to be a great team in September because you'll already be there.
And it goes to show you as well. You're exactly right, Chris. And it goes to show you that, you know, there are many of us and many of you at home that watch baseball, and we think we know baseball. We think we know what's going to happen in a year. And remember when this season began, everybody said based on last year that, boy, the National League Central Division, if you want to win that division, you know, you better win 95. Now, the Cubs are going to win 95 plus. But the point was being made that everybody has a chance to win 95 plus based on the way the Pirates, the Cardinals, and the Cubs played last year. It would be, I'm not going to call it a miracle, it would be a big surprise if anybody besides the Cubs won more than 90 games in the National League Central. Pirates have won 67 and the Cardinals have won 72 with fewer than 30 to go. Ball 4, a 2-out walk to Barnhart. Second given up by Montero, and the pitcher will bat Finnegan.
Same thing that Brandon Finnegan did to end up facing the pitcher with 2 outs in the inning. You walk the number 8 hitter. That's the one spot where a manager and pitching coach really want you to go after that number 8 hitter, because you really want the pitcher leading off the next inning. Although in Finnegan's case, the way he was hitting in the beginning of the year, maybe he can regain a little of that magic. He had a good stroke working.
One ball, one strike on Finnegan. 6 hits and 50 at bats. Has a pair of doubles and 2 runs batted in. Short left, Cespedes to his right. The Reds strand 1. They've left 3 on through the first 2 and trail by a run.
To Roberto Clemente. Now it goes even further. He is the Reds 2016 Roberto Clemente Award nominee. This award is given annually in recognition of a player from each club who best represents the game of baseball through extraordinary character, community involvement, philanthropy, and positive contributions. And you better believe he's honored by it.
means everything to me. It's something that, you know, being able to hang out with the Clemente family and speak to them and be able to build a relationship with them, it's something that I can't wait to talk to them about, that I'm able to honor Roberto and their family in this way.
And tomorrow marks the 15th annual Roberto Clemente Day throughout Major League Baseball. And we told you Michael Lorenzen wearing number 21 nowadays because of Roberto Clemente. And when he says he can't wait to tell them, he's talking about the Clemente family because he gained a friendship with them in the offseason.
It's great stuff from Michael Lorenzen. And as always, Jim Day, great stuff with you. We appreciate it very much. Jim's on top of it all, isn't he?
On top of it every day.
Well, on this rather warm night, Jim again donning the golf shirt down alongside the Reds dugout. That one hit a long way. Is it fair or is it foul off the bat of Reyes? That is a fair ball. Touch 'em all, Jose Reyes. You brought up earlier, there was a time he was as dynamic a player as there was in the game.
I mean, did everything there was in the game. Played tremendous defense, had a rocket arm, could run like a deer, hit for power, switch hitter. I mean, just as dynamic as they came, man. Boy, did he ever excite those fans in New York. Injuries and some other side tracks have taken a lot away from him, but he's had a pretty good major league career. And there was a lot of question as to whether he would land back in the major leagues.
One ball and two strikes, a count on Asdrubal Cabrera. You know, even with his issues off the field that really transpired during the offseason, getting this chance, Reyes says it's rejuvenated his look on life in baseball. It's been 10 years since he's been in the pennant race with anybody. With the Mets, they got close in 07 and 08, but after that, not really close at all. And he had been wanting to be in this situation going into September as a Met for a long, long time. After bouncing around, we mentioned earlier, with the Marlins and the Blue Jays and the Colorado Rockies. But he was involved in a domestic abuse incident, and the Rockies released him after he was handed a 52-game suspension for violation of MLB's new domestic abuse policy. Three balls and a strike on Cespedes. A pair of solo home runs given up so far tonight by Finnegan. It's now 29 he's allowed overall this year. 3-2 to Cespedes. know, Chris, you've talked about it many, many times. Your old college coach, Robin Roberts, used to give up a lot of home runs, and there have been a lot of great pitchers through the history of baseball that have given up a large number of home runs. And when they're solo home runs, you'll frequently hear guys say, you know, you just move on, you don't worry about it. But is there ever a time when a pitcher starts to get a little shell-shocked by the number of home runs they allow?
Well, I think if you do it over a short period of time, but if you're in the rotation all year long, it means you're doing something right. I mean, in order to lead the league in home runs given up, you've got to be out there plenty of innings. In order to lead the league in losses, you've got to be out there plenty of innings. So there's always the other side of it to look at. I think if in the case of Brandon Finnegan, it's just a matter of learning how to control your stuff. I mean, some of the problems he has, and we just showed you that graphic about the number of walks he has. And the old saying, if you're wild outside the strike zone, you're going to be wild in the middle of the strike zone. And those are the balls that get hit for home runs.
But I mean, you're not walking around getting bummed out about it.
No, I mean, how can you? I think you'd be more bummed out about walking the bases loaded.
But will you say to yourself, if he ends up giving up, let's just pick a number, say it's one more home run, 30 home runs on the year. You say to yourself, I'd like to get that number to fill in the blank next year?
Probably like to get it down to 25 or 22, you know, with the same number of innings. I mean, 30 is not a terrible number. Not if you're going to start all season long. I mean, he's going to give up more home runs if he gets more starts. And I imagine he'll probably start after tonight at least 2 more starts before the Reds begin to think about maybe limiting his innings or his starts. I just like the way he comes right after hitters. I mean, when he walks them, it's not because he's nibbling around the corners. It's because his delivery is off and he's just not throwing the ball accurately. I mean, he's not shying down to anybody.
Well, here you get a look at his track record where he is. He went 105 last year. He's already up over 157 now. 154 was coming into the game. So you're not going to flirt around with a lot more than that moving forward.
He may go up to 175, something like that, if he can give you some good long starts. But he doesn't seem to me like he's a guy that is overdoing it for his body. He's not throwing 98 miles an hour. I mean, he's under control, even though he does come at you with 100% effort.
3 balls and 2 strikes on Flores, who fouled out Tabata his first time up.
I think the next step for him is, other than the fact that he'll be his own best pitching coach on the mound, is that he'll learn how to back off and pitch at 90% instead of at 98% effort. And better control will come along with that.
On the ground to the glove side of the shortstop Cozart. That's all for the Mets. A second straight inning. They get a solo home run. This one from Reyes. And after 2.5, it's 2-0 Mets. topic on the newest show on Fox Sports Ohio, the Tri-State Tailgate. That'll premiere Thursday with our buddy Jeff Piccoro and former UC star quarterback Tony Pike. They'll talk everything pigskin. The Tri-State Tailgate debuts 6 p.m. this Thursday, presented by Columbia Hyundai Genesis. Tony Pike's done a really nice job working on the radio and some television. Well, what a nice career coming out of Reading High School he had. And so Pick will get him all up to speed on this TV thing. I mean, they're going to be talking pro football, college football, even some local high school football. Here's Jose Peraza. Reds have the top of the order, trailing 2-0 to Rafael Montero in the Mets. Game 2 of this 3-game series. An afternoon tilt tomorrow. No television, radio only tomorrow. Great pitching matchup. Anthony DeSclafani against Noah Syndergaard. They call Syndergaard Thor. He looks like Thor, the comic book character, the long blonde locks. And there's strike 3 to Peraza.
Now the bottom of the zone, you wonder where it is, and we're going to show you right there, right on the bottom of the zone. Did that pitch according to our box tracks? I'll tell you, if you get that pitch as a pitcher, you're for Brandon Finnegan and you're watching from the dugout, because really all you can see from the dugout is up and down. You can't see in and out. You're thinking, man, that's a low fastball for a strike. I have to just live down there when I get out there, because the home plate umpire tonight, Nick Lentz, is calling that pitch.
Cozart looked at strike 3. In fact, all 3 strikeouts have been looking for this young Mets right-hander so far tonight. Slider that never moved. 2 balls and a strike to Zach. We're talking about football, and Cozart earlier having to walk up to the music of the Florida State fight song after the Seminoles beat his alma mater last night. Boy, for the mighty SEC, it was not a good opening weekend except for the school in the SEC, and that would be the Crimson Tide. That ball down the left field line, fair or foul? Foul ball.
Oh, too bad. Boy, from that shot right there, and we see it all the time at batting practice, Tom, but it is really amazing how much balls that are hit down the line actually curve. Now that had to be 25 feet fair when it came off the bat.
You're right.
Your dad's got that shot perfected.
Well, now, anyway, you were talking him up the other day about how much better his game is.
It is. It's much, much better. I'm saying he's got that big controlled draw working.
Oh, really?
Around one tree and into another.
He's not alone.
Well, he's going to be showing it off next week, right?
You better believe that in the
This
Marty
coming
Brennaman Golf
Sunday,
Classic.
yeah.
That'll be this Sunday and Monday out of Belterra. And if you'd like to still get on board, I believe there is still some room left to jump in. There'll be a group that goes out Sunday if that's a better day for you. You know, if you buy a team, which I buy a team, it's been a very mediocre team, but a team nonetheless. As Votto looks at ball 1 down and away. A team that Chris Welsh is a part of, I might add.
There's your problem.
Spending my hard-earned money and At any rate, that's neither here nor there. It's an incredible night. If you buy a package, you spend the night Sunday night. They have a big party, entertainment. Spend the night out at Belterra Casino. Then you get up the next morning, you tee them up. It's a great, nearly 24 hours.
Yeah, the golf starts at 8:30 on Monday morning, but if you want to play on Sunday, that tee time shotgun start is 12:30 p.m. So there's 2 groups, and I think there are a few openings left out there.
There goes Kozar. No
Huge
chance
break.
to throw him out. Yep. I mean, he had a walking lead and no way. 4 stolen base in 5 tries for Kozar.
Watch him kind of lean off the base right here, and it could be that when you see a runner doing that, the pitcher oftentimes begins to lean a little bit, or he does something with his setup into his set position that is just loud and clear to the runners, and evidently the Reds have picked something up on him. They just need to get more base runners.
See the numbers for Joey. Runners in scoring position. They are spectacular at 354. 2-2 delivery. And a ground ball to Reyes. 2 away.
Seemed like Joey's trying to guide that ball into the same hole that he got for a base hit his first time up.
Bring up Adam Duvall. He walked his first time up. Reds down 2-0. Home run number 30 would knot this thing up here in the last of the 3rd inning. That ball's hit hard into right center field. We are tied. So number 30 does indeed knot things up.
Everywhere we go, other coaches and scouts keep asking me, is this guy Duvall for real? I mean, how do you like his swing? And this swing right here is something he'd like to pull in a bottle and be able to pull out at will, because that is something of beauty right there. Stays behind it, drives it the other way. He's got plenty of power to leave the ballpark. And he needed that one.
And I tell you what, for the Reds, it has been a long, long time since they have hit a home run in their home ballpark. And that's hard to believe. One of the more hitter-friendly, homer-friendly ballparks in all of baseball. That's their first home run in their last 8+ games, this being the 9th. You got to go back to August the 20th. It's their longest drought playing at home in any ballpark since 1981.
Wow.
In fact, that is their first home run since last Tuesday. It has been exactly 1 week when the Eugenio Suarez homered in Anaheim off Jared Weaver. So the Reds played this entire homestand. Cardinals were in town over the weekend, and now the second game of the Mets series without a long one. And now we're tied at 2. And that'll do it. But Duvall shoots one the other way. And at the end of 3, the Reds and the Mets are tied at 2.
And he's the subject of our Quicken Loans Rocket Arms coming into tonight. Most strikeouts since August 20th. Only Max Scherzer has more, but Scherzer had one more start. 29 strikeouts in 20 innings over 3 starts for Brandon Finnegan. That's getting it done in that category.
It's not a bad company to hang around in.
Especially when you're 23 years old. Got a lot of upside. I mean, there are 23-year-olds that are still playing an A-ball.
You know, Joe Luckham was doing a little research, and I find this fascinating. And, you know, you go back over the last 102 years in Major League Baseball, and the most games started by a first baseman, a second baseman, and a right fielder. Since 1914, and remember, for many of those years, there was no free agency. So players would stay with one team their entire careers. And there were a lot of good first basemen, second basemen, and right fielders playing on the same team. But no trio has started more games since 1914 together in those 3 positions than the 3 you're looking at here tonight. Votto, Phillips, and now New York Met, former Red Jay Bruce, 831 starts together. And it's not even close. The next closest would be the trio of Pirates when they had Don Clendenon, Bill Mazeroski, and Roberto Clemente at 701. There's strike 3 to Bruce. Now, I was around for a lot of those starts. I would have thought that Mark Grace, Ryan Sandberg, Andre Dawson would have had more games together. They had nearly 300 fewer starts together than the Reds trio. And the next closest is in the 500s of Greenberg, Gehringer, and Pete Fox. So those 3 guys were teammates for a long time in a lot of baseball together.
Really, and the face of the Reds organization also.
Sure.
Of course, long-term contracts have something to do with that as well. You sign a young man when he's young. You hope that he's able to stay around a long time and continue to produce.
Oh, look out high and tight.
Well, even if he didn't mean to do it, it's a good pitch. I mean, not even really that tight, more high than anything else. Well, you might buy a little bit of that outside corner now.
That's where he's trying to go. And he gets ahead in 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Well, what a hack by d'Arnaud, though. You know, it's kind of the game within the game where you get a little bit of a brushback pitch. Maybe you didn't mean to do it, but I'm going to show you that I'm not intimidated, and I'm going to come out of my shoes swinging on the next pitch. Oh,
well, he wanted that call and doesn't get it.
I think that pitch was so good it fooled the umpire. You know, sometimes an umpire will say, well, he'll tell you, the catcher, hey, tell him in between innings I missed that one. And at that point, you forgive them. They say, okay, well, everybody's human. That's the way it goes. You can't review that. But some umpires now have never made a bad call in their entire career, according to them.
2-2 the count. Well, he just blew him away there with a fastball down and in. And that's consecutive strikeouts for Finnegan, 4 now in the game.
And 3 out of the last 4, too. You're just wondering, maybe Brandon Finnegan has pitched enough in this game to kind of get the edge, wear the edge off a little bit. He may have been too strong out there when he first took the mound, didn't have good feel of all of his stuff, and now it's beginning to come around.
Granderson, a home run to right center field his first time up. Off the inside edge, 3 balls and a strike. Beauty there on the outside corner to even the count, or make it 3-2. I beg your pardon. How about that? 3-5, almost in the exact same spot. One a ball, the other called a strike.
Give and take.
Yep.
I mean, you can see where usually where the umpire misses the calls, it's the opposite side of the plate where his head is. So when a left-handed hitter is up there, the umpire is on the inside part of the plate. He's always on the inside corner. So that outside part of the strike zone, his head is a lot farther away from that than he is right down the line. That's where the marginal calls are usually made.
Now there's a 2-out walk. Third of the game in 4 innings given up by Brandon Finnegan. Well, coming up Friday, September the 16th, join the Reds celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month with Fiesta Rojos. Have a big pregame festival, postgame fireworks show. Thanks to our friends at, how'd you say it, Chris?
Triple A.
For tickets, call 513-381-REDS.
I know all about AAA. Played there enough.
Yeah, you did. We were talking about that, in fact, before the game tonight, where one year when you were the American Association Pitcher of the Year, you started that season 9-0, led the league in what, strikeouts, ERA, all that kind of thing, and You were not a September call-up.
No.
The pitcher of the year in the whole league.
Well, I was over 30 years old, I think, and that's...
Well, still.
Well,
I mean, come on. Isn't there a reward somewhere in there for a guy that had that kind of year?
I did get a plaque on which they misspelled my name.
Come on.
That's okay, though.
You're kidding.
No, no.
It's like that old story about Richie Ashburn, you know, the longtime great player, Hall of Famer, and one of the funniest men that ever has walked the planet. He tells a story about being on the Mets' inaugural 1962 team. One of the worst teams, some might say the worst that ever played. At the end of the year, he was named the Mets MVP, and they gave him a brand new boat. He went out to pick it up, and the second he stepped on it, the boat sank. Such was the story of the '62 Mets. 3-1 now to Matt Reynolds. That's a true story.
Well, is that the same team where the famous line was uttered? Does anybody here know how to play the game?
Yes. Casey Stengel.
Yeah. I bet Brian's probably thought of that line a few times.
Oh,
this year.
boy. Especially in April and May. Now, this is more reminiscent of a start we saw, you know, early June, mid-June, late June, early August from Brandon Finnegan into July. High pitch count.
Well, you know, he's always going to have high pitch count because he strikes out a lot of batters. I mean, he does not pitch to contact. So it's more difficult for him to manage the pitches overall in a ball game than a guy that is a sinker ball pitcher that relies on, you know, good defense behind him. But he would be well served to throw more strikes. I'm sure he's trying it, just that not every game it's easy to do.
Swing and a miss, and even with a walk in the inning, Finnegan fans the side. Middle of the fourth, a 2-2 affair. Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. And by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together. The Reds and Fox Sports Ohio would love to send out a special birthday wish to Okie Frederick up in St. Mary's, Ohio. Celebrating a 90th birthday today. Okie, Happy birthday, number 90. Hope you've had a wonderful, wonderful day. Broken bat bouncing. Back up through the middle. One out on one pitch to take care of Schebler.
Well, that shift is really costing a lot of base hits. I mean, we're seeing more and more teams every year shift. Now every major league team, all 30 of them now, employ the shift at one stage or another, some more than others. But I mean, just like that, that ball just about went right through the wickets of the pitcher. And back in the day, that was a base hit 100% of the time. Unless you had Barry Larkin or Ozzie Smith back there. Or Davey Concepcion.
Which you did.
Yeah, all three of them.
Steal right one to Ivan De Jesus Jr. A strikeout victim his first time up. 2 runs, 2 hits for each team. 3 left on base for each team. Home runs accounting for all the runs so far. A pair of Mets solo homers. And the 2-run shot to tie it 1 inning ago from Adam Duvall. Reds are only gone for 4 days. They'll play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at PNC Park in Pittsburgh, and then turn right back around and return home for a 6-gamer. 3 against the Brewers next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights, and then the following weekend against the Pirates. Reds only have 9 home games left after tomorrow. Reyes, the one-time shortstop, plenty of arm. 2 away. Well, if a Red hits a home run off that Toyota sign tonight, that would be real news because it has not happened in a long time. Greg Wheeler from Amelia will win that Tundra. You can still sneak in. 10 home games left. Register for your chance to win it. Stop by your Cincinnati and or Northern Kentucky Toyota dealer. 2 down, none on. And here's Barnard, who walked his first time up. You know, we've been talking so much, and understandably so, about the wild card in the National League. Where really, I mean, if you want to say that teams like the Rockies and so forth are still in it, that's fine. But in the American League, 7 teams are within 5 games of the wild card lead. Five teams within 3.5. There you see. Boston by 1 game better than Baltimore and the Tigers. Those 2 teams, 2 better than Houston, and the Yankees still hanging around. Pull to the right side. It'll be a 1-2-3 inning. We're tied at 2 as we go to the 5th.
Cincinnati's most historic annual events, Oktoberfest Cincinnati. Plus, the first 20,000 fans on that Saturday night. The 6:10 game will receive a Red Stein thanks to Moorline Lager House. For tickets, visit Reds.com. Well, we told you recently that there were reports out there that the Reds were dipping back into the international pool, and they made it official today with the signing of Vladimir Gutierrez. He hails from Cuba. He will turn 21 here soon. He's worked as a reliever and as a starter, and the Reds have been watching this guy since March. He has not pitched competitively since January of 2015, but with some mechanical changes, he's got a fastball that's in the range of 95 to 97 now, throws 4 pitches, including a nasty changeup, and they view him as a future starter, but they say that he needs to be in a team-structured environment since he hasn't pitched in a while. Tomorrow, he is off to Arizona to pitch there, so he will be somewhat of a project, but they are very, very excited about this youngster's arm.
Well, hopefully we'll be watching him right here at Great American Ballpark in the not too distant future. So here we go, pitcher against pitcher to open inning number 5. 2-2 our count. Montero, Reyes, Cabrera. And Brandon Finnegan, pitch number 88 upcoming.
Really identical numbers across the board for each team. 2 runs, 2 hits, no errors, 3 left on base. The 2 hits for Finnegan, of course, were solo home runs. One by Granderson and one by Jose Reyes.
Pirates trying to get back in that one after falling behind the Cardinals 4-0. Now a 5-2 St. Louis lead. They're in the 5th. And the Cubbies are actually losing, but it's only the 2nd inning. They seem to win every night. Trailing 5-1 to the Brew Crew. So the major league record for most wins in a regular season, if I'm not mistaken, belongs to the Seattle Mariners. Correct? 116 wins, and that was a year where they lost. I had a chance to broadcast the first 2 games of that series. They were just run over by the New York Yankees in the LCS that year, 2001. And I'm sitting here looking at the Cubs. They're going for their 90th win of the season tonight. 100 and what would that be? 38 games. So their 138th being played tonight, right? So they would have to win every game and still would not be able to catch the Seattle Mariners. And I only bring that up because I think all of us agree, as there's a rocket in the left by Reyes. Boy, what a night he's having. A walk, a homer, and now a single. But it puts into perspective, I think, 2 things. One, the Cubs, after that incredible start in April and part of May, went through basically about 2 months where they were a 500 team. Maybe a game or 2 under 500. And then they've been incredible, ever since. They're 36-13 since the All-Star break, but it was that stretch from the middle of May until the very beginning of July where they were a couple of games under 500. But it puts into perspective what an incredible number of wins 116 is in a season, because the Cubs have been by far the best team in baseball this year.
Easily.
And they cannot, if they won every game the rest of this season, they cannot get to 116 wins.
And the reason why is they had that one bad month.
That's right.
One streak, month of July, were the only month where they played under 500 baseball. One of the areas where the Cubs really excelled this year, well, obviously they beat the Reds. They're beating them up pretty good. They're 10-3 against the Reds. They're 10-3 against Milwaukee, and they're 12-3 against Pittsburgh Pirates. And they're also 13-4 against interleague play teams, American League teams. So, I mean, you do a lot of damage by beating up on the Reds, the Brewers, the Pirates, and the American League teams.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. They're under 500 against the Cardinals. They're under 500. They're 2-5 against the Mets in the 7 games they played.
How about the Nationals? I mean, you start looking at teams they might play in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're 5-2 against the Nationals.
All right. And what about the Giants? They just played them,
Giants,
a 4-gamer.
They're 4-3.
Yep.
So they're pretty even, you know.
You know, what's also interesting is, you know, they win the, and you say, well, duh, but, you know, they have blown a lot of teams out of the gym this year. In games decided by 5 or more runs, they are 37-10 this year.
Those are called blowouts.
Yes. But in 1-run games, they are 1 game over 500.
So that's a luck factor anyway, 1-run game. I like the blowout action.
So does Joe Madden. So the stolen base by Reyes. That is a go-ahead run. 2-1 on Cabrera. And a tapper that will not advance the runner, and it becomes the 2nd out of the inning. 2 out. Cespedes coming up. Now, you've handled both Cespedes and Flores. Both are 0 for 2, but one is a far more accomplished player. And Cespedes, we brought up earlier, has been a .350 batter against left-handers. In a 2-2 game in the 5th, are you going to walk him here? Reds are coming after him.
Well, the fact that you've got him backed up with another right-hander, probably not. But if you get behind in the count, doesn't mean you have to pitch to him. You can make him chase, and he will chase.
Now, it should be noted, while Cespedes is a .347 batter against left-handers, Flores is hitting only 7 points less than that.
So, like I say, it's really how you start the at-bat off. I mean, I can't believe Cespedes took a fastball right down Broadway to start the at-bat off. Now, as aggressive as he is, you may not have to throw him another strike here in this at-bat.
Well, that's how they struck him out in the 1st inning.
Oh, I thought the first pitch was a strike.
So did Finnegan. .100 pitches now in a game for Finnegan. 2 outs in the 5th inning, and the go-ahead run leads at second base.
Now, these guys have a little history right here, because you go back to when the Reds were in New York and Finnegan was pitching a whale of a game, and Cespedes came off the bench and hit a 3-run home run to spoil the whole party for Brandon Finnegan and the Reds. If I'm not mistaken, I think he hit I want to say he hit a changeup. And that was a good old-fashioned pitch around right there. Why not?
Yeah, that was a game where Finnegan was working on a shutout in the 7th inning. He walked a batter, gave up a hit, and then Cespedes came off the bench and clubbed a 3-run home run to chase Finnegan, a game the Reds would lose 4-3. Mets scored all 4 of their runs in that 7th inning to win it. They beat Cingrani. 1 to Flores. And now 0-2. Finnegan has walked 4, 1 intentionally. He has fanned 6. So just think of the number of pitches just on walks and strikeouts in the game for Finnegan. It's no wonder this will be pitch number 105. He's only given up 3 hits. Diving stab by Votto. Well done by the Reds' first baseman. The Mets strand a pair. We're still tied at 2.
Billy Hamilton is the secret in the shoes. Finnegan's turnaround and talking about Lorenzen's number change. That and more, hosted by Jeff McCrory and Doug Flynn tomorrow night at 6 on Fox Sports Ohio. Congratulations going out to Hernan Iribarren. We told you when he first came up that he was hoping to win the International League batting crown, and indeed he did win that. Last couple of days at the International League level, they couldn't catch him. And he's the first Bats player to ever win that. At 32 years of age, he had the plaque in the clubhouse today, and I want to tell you what, he is very, very proud of it. Not only because of the award, but just how he got there. We told you 2011 he had a bad knee injury, turned his life over to his faith, started doing the right things off the field, started working harder, and he says he wants to pass that on to young players in the future as a coach.
Very, very nice. Thank you, Jim. You know, it's interesting, not only Iribarren here tonight winning the International League batting title, but sitting over in the New York Mets dugout tonight is the batting title winner from the Pacific Coast League. And Iribarren, this guy can hit, man.
Boy, you're not kidding. That's a good stroke.
Triple last night, and he might get 3 again tonight. I mean, that's back-to-back pinch hitting appearances that go for triple. This guy can hit. You know, the first thing everybody said, oh, yeah, he's 32 years old. So what?
That's a good stroke on a pitcher's pitch. I mean, he hit one in the right center field gap yesterday with the same kind of swing.
All right, now let me ask you a question here. And I really mean this, okay? And I bring up the first thing people say, well, it's a big deal. 32 years old. But if you're the general manager of a Major League Baseball team where it's trying to get their first lead of a game, and here's Peraza. You have a guy who's a prospect. He's 24, but he hit 240 in the minor leagues last year. And let's say all all else is equal. Defense, speed, whatever the case may be, intangibles, all those kinds of things. But you've got to decide one or the other is going to play regularly for you next year. And the guy who's 24 has never been a guy that could hit in the minor leagues. And this guy just got finished doing what he did. Do you automatically give the job to a 24-year-old?
Remember, putting a roster together depends on where you are as your team. Sure. Are you rebuilding, or are you one player away from getting there? Now, if you're at the cusp, if the rest of your players are all...
Oh, boy, that hit him in foul
ground. But it still hit him.
Looked like it got him in the foot. Man, that had to hurt.
And he looks down at Peraza and yells at him.
Golly, dang it, that have to hurt. On the right foot, it looked like. Yep. That's why you lead in foul ground.
To get back to that, it depends where your team is. If you need one player that's going to play every year and you don't know how, you're not looking 5 years down the road, you bring this guy up. You let him hit. If you're rebuilding, you go with the young guy.
Well, this time it stays fair, and Peraza, for the third time in the last 2 days, has had a runner at third with fewer than 2 outs and has not driven in the run.
In a one-run game, that's an important thing. I mean, you have to be able to tell yourself, I am definitely going to hit the ball the other way, or I'm going to, not the other way, but I mean, just try to elevate something. But you know what? I don't know if you really think about that when you're a young player. You're just going up there and you're saying, you know what, I want to hit the ball hard. I'm going to find a hole if I hit it hard enough. He did that yesterday and was unable to get him in, and I think maybe that's just the luck of the draw. A little different reaction than when you're trying to move a runner from second to third.
All right, now the infield going to come in. Cozart has struck out and drawn a walk, scored a run on the home run by Duvall. We were starting to mention a moment ago Iribarren, the International League batting champion, sitting in the Mets dugout, is T.J. Rivera. He won the Pacific Coast League batting title with a .353 average. When's the last time that happened?
Well, they do play in Las Vegas.
They do.
And that is a hitter's paradise. I think the Reds played a spring training there, probably spring training game there, a couple of games against the Chicago Cubs, probably, what, 5 or 6 years ago?
Yep.
And boy, oh boy, was that place a fun place to watch them hit. They couldn't believe it. I think they ran out of batting practice balls.
That's just part of the fun in Vegas.
You know, I went to Vegas earlier this summer on the way to meeting the team out on the West Coast, and I somehow didn't make it out to the ballpark.
Now that is a real surprise. 3-0 the count on Cozart. I don't know what their nickname is now. They used to be the Las Vegas Stars forever. I don't know what they are now, but it's hard to believe you wouldn't go by one of their games.
Are they the 51s or the?
Yeah, they were that for a little while. Yeah, still are 51s. Ball 4 to Cozart.
Interesting.
Fourth walk by Montero. And that was EMO on both of these pitchers. And it looks like Montero's night is through.
He probably gave the Mets what Terry Collins had hoped. I mean, he's right in the thick of the ball game. Always giving up a couple of runs. And Terry Collins in the middle of a pennant race will say, I'll manage it from here on.
All right, our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. Josh Edgin will come on, a left-hander for New York. Gary Byron, we mentioned the last 2 games pinch hit triples. He is the first player in consecutive games to do that since Scott Cousins of the Marlins in 2010. Rare indeed. Well, he represents the go-ahead run. Reds have not led the entire way as Edgin, the left-hander, appears for the 6th time. And he's on to face Votto. Starts him with a breaking ball, and it's fouled out of play. Strike 1. 4 1/3 for Montero. Allowed only 3 hits. Fan 4, walk 4. But he leaves with runners on the corners. In a 2-2 game, we are only in the bottom of the 5th inning. That ball smoked into right. Bruce with a catch. Here comes Iribarren. And Votto knocks in the go-ahead run. Reds lead for the first time tonight. Well, here comes Terry Collins again. Boy, oh boy. Brains spilling all over the field here in the 5th, and one batter.
You have expanded rosters. It gives you an opportunity to use a lot more players. So we will say goodbye to the former Ohio State Buckeye Josh Edgin and welcome probably a right-hander.
Yes, it is. If he get club number 30 in that at bat in the 3rd inning, he'd tie the game. Well, that he did. And by doing so, he becomes the 6th player in modern Reds history whose primary position is left field to produce 30 home runs in a season, joining the likes of Adam Dunn, Greg Vaughn, the great George Foster, Frank Robinson, and Hank Sauer. Dunn the last to do it in 2008. Our IGS bringing the energy. So 3-2 Reds. Gabriel Ynoa takes over on the mound.
Well, he's only 23 years old, a youngster, so you get an idea of what Terry Collins has to do to try to get through innings and to get through ball games. Randy Youngster in only 4th time he's pitched in the big leagues this year. He pitched in AAA, where he appears to me, at least by the numbers you read in AAA, that he's not overpowering. He's more of a control pitcher. Doesn't strike out a lot, but he doesn't walk very many. Right now, Collins just playing the right-on-righty card right here and see if Yanoa can get him out of the inning.
Gets ahead of Duvall at 0-2.
Well, the people may be booing Yanoa for throwing over to first base here, and some of them are. But I can guarantee you that those throwovers are being called by the bench.
Gone swinging, and that's a big strikeout for the young right-handed. But the Reds get the triple off the bench by Ibarra, and he scores a go-ahead run.
T-Mobile. Congratulations to the AA affiliate of the Reds, the Pensacola Blue Wahoos. That not only captured the first half title, but the second half Southern League crown. And they did so by sweeping a 5-game series from Birmingham to win the second half by 1 game. They finished with an 81-59 record, best since 2012. They'll play Mississippi in the division round of the playoffs. Last night it was Nick Travieso, former first-round pick for the Reds, getting it done with 7 2/3 innings of scoreless baseball, and Brandon Dixon led the team offensively, 16 home runs, 65 runs driven in. So congratulations to the Blue Wahoos.
Congratulations indeed. So now Brandon Finnegan has a chance to pick up a win. Of course, that would mean 4 innings of great work out of the Reds bullpen, and that endeavor will begin with right-hander Michael Lorenzen.
4 walks, 4 strikeouts, 1 home run. 4 1/3 innings pitched, 3 hits, 3 runs, all earned, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, 1 home run. Pitching line on Edgin, 1/3 of the inning pitched, all zeros.
First pitch swinging. It is a base hit by Jay Bruce, and then it bounces away from Duvall. And Jay Bruce will end up at second on a single and an error.
Well, Adam Duvall made 2 tremendous plays yesterday where he threw runners out of second and then third base. On the swing, he just kind of side played that ball. That's a recipe for danger, and that's what happened. But on the swing, Jay Bruce simply looking for first pitch fastball for Michael Lorenzen, and pretty much assuredly going to get one, and he was there with the meat of the bat.
So now d'Arnaud. He has 1 sacrifice this year. Now the Mets are behind by a run, but you're only in the top of the 6th inning. The right side of the infield certainly does not believe he's going to bunt. Votto well behind the bag, and now DeJesus, who is a step on the grass, backs up behind the third base bag. 1-1.
You know, maybe if it was a tie game and you were later in the game, you'd see him bunt right here. But the Mets are thinking multiple runs. And when you bunt in this situation, you really limit the number of runs you're going to score in an inning. So they're hoping he pokes one through to the right side for a base hit. And is able to score the run and get the first base. Tell you, went over there to the Mets clubhouse today to say hi to Jay Bruce. Had a chance to talk to him a little bit. The difference in the media, the number of media in the Reds clubhouse and the Mets clubhouse. We're not talking about the New York Yankees here. We're talking about the Mets. And I mean, there were at least 12 to 15 different media members walking all over there looking for somebody to interview.
And the thing you have to remember, for those that are not familiar with how that works, you know, the Reds have a large contingent of media because a lot of them, meaning at home, are only covering the team when the team is at home. For the Mets to have the number you're talking about, that's how many are traveling.
Right. And I'm not talking about those members of the Reds media that happen to be in the Mets clubhouse at that time. These are all New York people.
Yeah. Well, you know what you have there is, and I mean, people know this, you have 3 New York papers regularly.
Yeah, the MLB
4,
coverage.
I beg your pardon, including Newsday, so you have 4. You have a couple of papers in New Jersey, and you have a couple of papers in Connecticut. There's strike 3 called to d'Arnaud.
That's that cut fastball that Michael Lorenzen has been working on. It's a pitch that starts off the plate, it looks like, and then just is able to hold its line. Comes out looking a little bit like a slider, but it stays right there for him, and d'Arnaud's darting out of the way thinking, man, that ball's going to eat me up. What a nice pitch.
Yeah, in the old days in old Yankee Stadium, and you were in that clubhouse, I mean, and Shea Stadium for that matter, when you would go inside the Yankees or Mets clubhouse when they were playing at home, and now you throw in TV and radio and all the other media covering the team, local papers, it's suffocating.
Yeah. And my point is that if you're not used to it, like Jay Bruce probably not used to it, it's an eye-opener. I mean, everywhere you turn, there's somebody wanting to get a piece of you.
Yep. Now the runner will advance on to third. And that pitch hit Granderson. He will be awarded first base. That's an 0-2 mistake by Lorenzen. The runner will now be sent back to second base because the pitch hit Granderson.
Well, 0-2, you don't want to hang it over the plate. And, you know, you want to bury it pretty much exactly where he threw it. You know, the phrase from a pitching coach is bury it on the back foot of the hitter. And he did that, but you obviously don't mean it literally. And Granderson just didn't get out of the way of that pitch. So that's just a tough break.
So Kelly Johnson will now be the pinch hitter, batting for Reynolds. And Reynolds has had an excellent first couple of games of this series. Here's a tapper down to first. Votto will go to second. Had trouble getting the ball out of his glove. I'm not sure they turn it anyway. They get it out, the second of the inning. And now we'll have another pinch hitter. Conforto will bat for Inoa.
You know, the only thing that prepares a manager for managing in September when you have expanded rosters, and you may have up to 35 players on your roster and available, is spring training. When you bring up the whole AA team and you want to work them into the game.
Well, here's Conforto, a really good-looking young hitter who has been great and has been brutal at the same time, as those numbers right there would indicate. Had an incredible April, and we saw him. That's when the Reds were in New York. Has been up and down a couple of times, and the Mets are hoping that he can find that golden stroke here for this stretch run to get to the playoffs. 0-2 the count. This young Californian trying to send us to the bottom of the sixth inning with a lead and didn't miss by much. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Bruce, a tying run at third. The go-ahead run is Johnson across the diamond. 2 outs, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Got him.
Oh, baby.
Yes, you did. Sunday, the 18th of September, thanks to Klosterman Bakery, Cincinnati's very own. You can get half-price Reds tickets. Got a lot going on. Mascot races, face painters, games, and more. Kids 14 and younger get a Ricel, a Fathead. Those are popular thanks to Cincinnati Bell. 381-REDS. Chris, I know you knew Julian Mock quite well. He worked for the Reds from 1981 to 1997. He recently passed away. He was, among many other things, the Reds director of Dominican operations for a number of years, and their director of scouting for a number of years. He was an integral, very, very important part of this Reds organization for a long time. He just recently passed, and our thoughts and prayers certainly with his family. Good man.
Very good man. Got to know Julian very well. Very smart scout. What a great demeanor, too. I did not know he passed, and I'm sorry to hear that.
He was always the gentleman.
Very much so.
Brandon Phillips will lead things off against Josh Smoker. Now here's another guy that the Mets are taking a flyer on, what with all the injuries they've had, and he's pitching pretty good baseball for them.
Former #1 pick for the Washington Nationals. Now 27 years old, Smoker is.
Now those numbers don't tell you he's pitched in some games and recorded some big outs. In 9 games, and you're talking about 7 innings. That can be one very bad inning that just blows up that ERA. But he has come on here recently and picked up some important outs for the Mets.
Well, he came up in August, so he would be eligible to be on the postseason roster if they decide to keep him on there. The one blemish is that in those innings, he's given up 3 home runs in 3 different games.
Kelly Johnson remains in the game after batting for Reynolds and will play second base. Three runs, only 3 hits for the Reds. 2 runs, 4 hits for New York. Bruce over near the stands. He knows that territory and just how much room he has, and he makes a play. 1 out.
Does that as well as anybody.
Bruce grinning at his old teammate Brandon Phillips. We brought up earlier, especially those 3 guys, Phillips, Bruce, Votto, played so many games together. Nearly 900 starts among them together. Schebler tardy on a first pitch fastball. 96 from Smoker.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it doesn't look like he's got a lot of movement on the ball, but doesn't have much time to move either.
Bullet into left field, a base hit.
Good stroke.
So now De Jesus in the air down the right field line. Bruce again a long run. And this time just out of his reach. One ball and 2 strikes on Ivan De Jesus. Runner goes, and another foul ball off to the first base side. Pirates have come up with 4 runs in the 5th inning off the Cardinals. Matt Bowman to take a 1-run lead. That was a game the Cardinals had a 4-0 lead right out of the gate. De Jesus gone on strikes. 2 away in the inning. Stick around for Reds Live tonight and after every game here on Fox Sports Ohio. It's brought to you by Performance Kings Honda. Break it all down. Saw Jim Day down there earlier with Red Senior Vice President Karen Forgas. So maybe he'll have some inside news about what might be upcoming here on these last couple of homestands. One and 0 to Tucker Barnhart. Hey, Jim, I started to ask you earlier in the game, but for those that may have missed Reds Live, it was addressed, I know, briefly after the game last night. Any Billy Hamilton update for us?
Well, Billy with the left oblique injury, one thing that Brian Price says that they don't think it will be a season-ending injury, but it's not a couple days injury either. He will not do anything for 5 to 7 days, and they will reevaluate him. He'll get treatment, but will do nothing physically for 5 or 7 days, and then we'll have an update. In fact, he said it won't even be a factor. Don't even really ask because they'll have no update. So it's an oblique injury. Whether he returns or not is up in the air because this thing can be very tenuous.
Yes, indeed.
Well, you know, I did read that he sneezed, and he said he felt the worst pain of his life. So if you ever had one of those injuries, that can set you back to square one.
Sure.
I mean, you can be on your way to recovery, sneeze, and you're completely re-injured again. There it is right there. And really, you have to give a little bit of credit to Yadier Molina, because Billy Hamilton said, you know, it was Yadier Molina that stopped the play. I was ready to get back in the batter's box. And Molina looked down and said, hold on here. And that's when the trainers came out and took him out of the game.
Barnhart gone on strikes. We go to the 7th. Scoreless inning for Smoker. 3-2 Reds. Duvall, the 2-run home run to tie it after the Reds fell behind 2-0. Yuri Barren, a pinch hit triple, screws a go-ahead run on a sac fly by Votto. And here we go in the 7th. And Michael Lorenzen will take the ball for a second straight inning.
But really, the Reds are kind of breaking new ground with relievers going more than one inning, especially when you're leading the ball game late in the game. Not that we're only in the 7th inning, but I mean, we've seen that a lot with Raisel Iglesias. Now we get to see it with Michael Lorenzen. You know, bullpen is always split between those guys who pitch in games in which you primarily are winning versus those games in which you're primarily losing. You got a couple of guys that are throwing the ball very well, like Lorenzen and Iglesias. You save them normally for games that are either tied or in which you're up.
96-mile-per-hour heater there. The Reds have not retired this guy tonight. And for the first time, he turns around to bat left-handed. That's Jose Reyes. Walked in the first, home run to left in the third, single to left, stole a base in the 5th. Soft liner to DeJesus. Well, that was a 97-mile-per-hour fastball that just chewed up Reyes.
Yeah, we were talking about it between innings, Tom, about how Michael Lorenzen really has a chance to be an outstanding reliever. I mean, dominating. And not because he only throws 97. I mean, a lot of relievers throw 97, but it's his secondary pitches that are so good. I mean, he's really beginning to get the idea of what pitches work for him and how to use them and when to use them.
Well, remember, it's a breaking ball that froze the pinch hitter Conforto to get that strikeout, ending the 6th inning.
The last thing he was looking for is a slow curveball out of a guy that throws 97. There you see how he grips that every pitch like a spiked curveball, and then he goes from that pitch to something else because it's harder to get that finger located just right on that curve. And
falling behind Cabrera, 3-1. And 2-1 Cabrera. And back up the middle. Cozart, a diving stab. Can he get him? He does. Oh, it looked like he had him, and safe as a call. He did give it a shot. Well, what an excellent effort by Cozart.
Boy, this ball had base hit written all over it. There it is again, up the middle with overspin on it. And somehow Cozart comes up and is able to make a throw.
So an infield hit for Cabrera. That'll bring up the go-ahead run, Cespedes. It's his second hit off Lorenzen since coming on from the pen an inning ago. Bruce had that line drive to left. Was stranded at third. 1 ball and 1 strike. Michael ahead, a ball and 2 strikes. And that's in the dirt, blocked nicely there by Tucker Barnhart.
It's a good place to miss.
We saw Cespedes chase one of those away from him from the left-hander Finnegan back in the opening inning. Cespedes 0 for 2 has been intentionally walked. Straight away center field, and the Mets have the lead.
Well, that swing right there is what excites Mets fans about Yoenis Cespedes. I mean, pretty much right down Broadway, yes. Tried to throw a cutter, and the ball looked like it just backed up on him a little bit and stayed right in the center of the plate. That ball was supposed to go down and away.
So now the Reds will play catch up again. They came down from 2-0 to tie it and take the lead. Now the 2-run home run by that man. That is the 88th home run allowed by the Reds bullpen this year. That is tied for the 2nd most in Major League history with the 1996 Detroit Tigers. 4 away. From a 1964 A's, their bullpen gave up 92 home runs. Now a base hit by Flores continues the inning for Bruce.
Well, it was Jay Bruce who started the night on Michael Lorenzen with an opposite field base hit on the first pitch he saw.
Blevins a left-hander, Salas a right-hander, getting loose in the New York bullpen. And it would be those two to patch it together in the 7th, because if the Mets have a lead, they have a very solid 1-2 punch in the 8th and the 9th in Addison Reed and Familia, the closer. There are a few Mets in the stands, Mets fans in the stands here tonight, man.
That can be rough.
It's rough. I mean, they are giving it to Bruce, and he's one of their own. Fan sitting, I think, just below us somewhere. Says, Bruce, for once in this series, you think you can hit one.
I mean, if they open the windows in the Queens, you can hear him.
Oh, man.
He's got leather lungs.
Called foul. That's not a Reds fan yelling at him. Jay singled his last time up, hit the ball very hard. That was a first pitch thrown by Lorenzen out of the bullpen.
Despite his troubles in New York, and he has had them, especially when he started off, but his last 6 games way better. Hitting up around 350, 2 home runs, 5 runs batted in. Has a knock tonight.
Broken back. Votto for 1. Return. Double play. But damage done. Cespedes plays long ball with Cabrera aboard to give the Mets a 1-run lead. And one of Cincinnati's most historic annual events. That's right, Oktoberfest is Cincinnati style. First 20,000 fans at Saturday's 6:10 game get the Reds Stein thanks to our friends at Moorline Lager House right across the street. For tickets, visit Reds.com. Cincinnati Oktoberfest. That's always a big weekend.
Boy, you better believe it.
All right, here we go. Last of the 7th. Reds are trailing now by a run after the home run in the top of the inning by Cespedes off Michael Lorenzen. And the Reds will send up a pinch hitter to start things, Ramon Cabrera, against a new pitcher. We saw him here last night for an inning and a third of perfect baseball, the one-time Cardinal, Fernando Salas. Excellent inning of work by Smoker. 1 hit allowed, 2 strikeouts, no runs.
Pitching 9 on Lorenzen, 2 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 runs, both earned, 2 strikeouts, 1 home run. Lorenzen, 2 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 runs, both earned, 2 strikeouts, 1 home run.
Cabrera from the left side can swing the bat. Takes up and away. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Razzle waits on deck, and then Kozar due up third in the inning. Any further than that, and of course we get to the number 3 hole hitter in the lineup in Votto. 2-2 off the outside corner to run it full. Chase a high fastball, and Cabrera comes up empty. 1 out in the 7th. Fourth reliever used in this game by the Mets. Following the start of Montero, went 4 1/3. Edgin, Enoa, Smoker, and now Salas. And there's more to come. Two away in the inning, back-to-back strikeouts. And speaking of relief pitching, let's turn it over to the relief ace, Jim Day.
Did you happen to see the relief pitching last night in Los Angeles? You don't see this very often, with numbers on the back of jerseys. Chavez Ravine pitched at Chavez Ravine, even though they don't exactly pronounce his last name Ravine, but it still looks good. Pretty funny.
It's pretty
pitched
cool.
The 8th
isn't it?
and 9th inning last night.
That's cool. Very cool. Jam shot roller to the shortstop. And a 1-2-3 inning for Salas. Mets lead by a run. We're off to the 8th. Solo home runs. Granderson in the 2nd, Reyes in the 3rd to make it 2-0 New York. Duvall in the bottom of the 3rd with 2 outs with club number 30 on this season. National League Reds All-Star. In the 5th inning, Gary Barron for the 2nd consecutive game, first player since 2010 with pinch hit triples in consecutive at-bats. He would score on a fly ball by Votto, but Cespedes in the 7th with Cabrera aboard to straightaway central.
And it was Cespedes that spoiled the plans for Brian Price to go Michael Lorenzen on top of Brandon Finnegan and then follow up with Iglesias. So the Reds are down by 1 instead of being up by 1, and now Raisel Iglesias takes the mound.
It's going to be very, very interesting to see what the Reds do with Iglesias, or think about doing, because there is no right answer, or at least there's no certain answer, because no one can tell you if his arm is durable enough as a starter. Is it durable enough as a reliever? You can sit there and debate that from now till the end of time. Where is there more wear and tear? You and I have talked a little bit about that. So ultimately, what is Raisel Iglesias moving forward? That is one of the biggest decisions a Reds franchise will make during this offseason. And they have a lot of big ones to make. There's no exact science. We know that. As Granderson lifts a fly ball to left center. So on 4 pitches, Raisel gets 2 outs. Chris, you pitched out of the bullpen. You were primarily a starter. I mean, just based on your experience, did you notice any more wear and tear doing one or the other?
Well, I never closed like Iglesias has. You bring a closer in or a late inning guy, 7th and 8th inning, and the high leverage situations, you know, you're pitching under stress right away. You know, but the innings can eat you up, and I think something happened with Iglesias this year. He must have come into spring training and his arm didn't feel well, because they held him way back in spring. They called it, they were going to strengthen his shoulder. They thought they got to that point. And then it barked up again on him during the season. They had to put him on the shelf and then bring him back and keep his innings under control as a reliever. I personally think he is more valuable to the ball club as a starter. You can find late inning relievers on the market, and they're affordable. If your scouts know what to look for, there are other teams that have rebuilt their bullpens nearly every year, and they end up having pretty good bullpens. But this guy's got so many weapons. Man, I want to see him out there for 200 innings if he can give it to you.
Brought to you by Kroger. Stop by your neighborhood Kroger and save big store-wide. Great food, low prices. Kroger. And by Toyota for over 30 offers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota. Let's go places. Last of the 8th. Reds with 6 outs to play with. And they'll have to do it against, to rally from a run down, the top 2 relievers in this New York bullpen. Addison Reed will pitch the 8th. What a year.
Well, he's been a closer before, and that's what seems to be in common of a lot of good bullpens, is that you have some veteran guys that have been around, and oftentimes your setup guy is somebody who has been a closer before. So if you have an injury to your closer, you have some experience stepping right in.
Like the Reds have with Jonathan Broxton.
Exactly. This is the 6th pitcher of the night for the Mets.
Well, hey, they're in the hunt. They know the Cardinals are up there trailing tonight, trailing by a run. And the Mets are only 1 game behind them for the 2nd wild card spot. In fact, they're only a game and a half out of the top wild card spot. And the Giants just keep losing. And the only team that seems to really want to make up ground, we showed you the records earlier of the top 5 wild card teams, including the Giants. Every one of them except the Mets have been under 500 for the last 2.5 weeks. That one's out of play. Giants have lost 2 in a row. They've now slipped 4 games behind the streaking Dodgers, who have won 3 in a row in the NL West. Boy, the Dodgers, how about what they did last night to Zach Greinke? Came back to L.A. pitching for his new team, Arizona. Gave up 5 home runs.
Reed makes it real simple, at least as far as the choices you have you're going to face. He throws 2 pitches, a 4-seam fastball and a slider, but they're both very good.
In the air, center field, playable for Granderson. 1 out. Our Volkswagen drive of the game. Who else would it be for the Redlegs? And Duvall, number 30.
Good opposite field hitting right here for Adam. Guy's got such an easy swing. I mean, some hitters you see swing and they miss and they almost fall down. Duvall just always seems like he's in balance.
Oh, he just missed that one.
That's 2 in a row just missed.
Man. 2 outs.
Just a hair late on this one.
You can see him immediately. But that's baseball. You know, one time of that pitch is in the same spot, you kill it to right center, and the next time, fraction late, a pop-up and an out. Now, Brandon 0 for 4 in his career against Addison Reed. And now he has a hit in 5 at-bats. 1 hop off the wall. Cespedes has a good arm. Look out. Yep, that's not the guy you run against.
Wow, what a throw.
He has thrown out more than anybody in baseball over the last handful of years. And this is right on the nose.
The mound here to pitch the top of the 9th inning, and Blake Wood was 1 year old when this photo was taken right here in Cincinnati, downtown at Riverfront Stadium. 6 players who all went to high school in Cincinnati ended up on the Reds back in 1986.
All right, you at home, how many can you name moving left to right? We have a minute. No batter coming in. Look who that is on the far left.
Well, on the far left is the guy talking right now.
That's right.
Next to me is Dave Parker, went to Quarter Tech. Buddy Bell went to Moeller. Barry Larkin, of course, went to Moeller. Ronnie Oster,
Withrow,
and of course Western Hills pride and joy, Pete Rose.
It's a great picture.
I can't believe how 30 years goes that fast.
And everybody in that group alive and well.
Yeah.
And you know, in fact, we were talking about Dave Parker yesterday with a couple of folks here at the ballpark, and last time we had a chance to see him, he was still doing great, playing a lot of golf.
You know, he has a golf tournament, a charity golf tournament coming up. I think it's October the 8th. I just got an email from that tournament today. And, well, I don't know how to get to everybody's details on it, but I'm sure that there are spots open.
We'll make it a point to do so before the year is over. Well, big night for Granderson coming back into Cincinnati as he watches his teammate Alejandro De Aza club a home run to the seats in right center field. So De Aza off the bench. A home run to make it a 2-run Mets lead.
Well, here's a stat for you. That is the 26th home run allowed to the first batter faced by a Reds pitcher this season. Reds bullpen pitcher. That's distinctive. Boy, Brian Price, it must seem like 126 to him.
Mm-hmm. It's almost impossible to believe. And that's now 89 home runs surrendered by the Reds bullpen. Second most officially now of all time in a single season. Reyes gone on strikes. If you're wondering, the record is 27 first batters faced home runs allowed by a bullpen in a single year. That was a 2001 Colorado Rockies. And by the way, we talked about Cespedes, the wrong guy to run on when he just threw out Phillips. That was his 9th outfield assist this year. He has 57 outfield assists since 2012. That is by far the most in Major League Baseball. He won a Gold Glove last year in Detroit before he came over to deal. Brandon has 4 of those at home. Flashing the Gold Glove D right there to throw out Cabrera.
Well, that's a nice play.
He is still an outstanding athlete. I mean, I think it's the one thing we sometimes lose sight of as players get older. You know, their athleticism appears to deteriorate. And look, Brandon will be the first to tell you that everybody's lost a little something, all the wear and tear and all the injuries he's played through and so on and so forth. But he is still a phenomenal athlete. Strong, still runs well. 1 strike. Cespedes delivered the big blow. The 2-run home run off Lorenzen in the 7th to take a 3-2 deficit to a 4-3 lead. The home run by Alejandro De Azu makes it a 2-run advantage. Bouncer to short. And that's all. But the home run by De Azu makes it a 2-run game. Reds bat last of the 9th. Every game on Fox Sports Ohio. All you need to know. Reds Live is presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. No television tomorrow, so Chris, we take a look ahead to starting on Thursday night. Reds Live starts at 6:30. The slumping September Pittsburgh Pirates. 7-game losing streak. They're trying to end that tonight. Under 500 for the first time. A franchise that went over 20 years without finishing above 500. First time in 4 years.
Now their pitching staff has simply been decimated. Even more so than the pitching staff here of the New York Mets. So Clint Hurdle's had a hard time running pitchers out there that'll give him a decent outing at least for 4 or 5 innings. They don't have to worry about that here, especially in the 9th inning. Not with this man on the mound. He has been awfully good this year. Jeurys Familia, 45 of 48 save opportunities.
Scott Schebler to lead things off. Boy, that's some serious giddy up on that fastball. Mercy. It may have only been 96. They only 96. You know, number of guys throwing 96. It looked like 106. And then the bottom falls out at 88. Mets have one of their aces getting the ball here tomorrow. Colon won his 13th of the year last night. Noah Syndergaard will be gunning for his 13th win. 12:35 tomorrow. Tickets are available. Come on down to the ballpark. It's supposed to be another beautiful weather day. Syndergaard a season ERA at 2.5. And after a little bit of a slump to this season, Syndergaard is getting on the kind of roll that when you see his stuff, you expect it. His last 4 starts, a 3-1 record, a 1.6 ERA.
They were a little worried about him earlier in the year because of some arm problems, but evidently that has not cropped up again. Boy, he's some kind of talent.
Guy's got good stuff. Venomous stuff.
I mean, if it looks good from here, what does it look like in the batter's box? I mean, look at that slider. It just disappears.
Take a look at that, 88 up last 2 years. Mark Melancon, of course, chalked up most of those wearing a Pirates uniform before being traded. DeJesus with Barnhart next. Reds down 2 and 2 outs left to go. Another great Reds fan watching from out of town tonight. Jeff Gowen. You remember Jeff Gowen?
Sure do,
you met
yeah.
him before out in the Rocky Mountains, dialed into Reds baseball tonight. I mean, they'll follow their Reds no matter where they go. He's also made a pretty good living as a producer in television.
What an upbeat guy.
Oh, great guy.
Man,
I mean, one of the great guys that you'll ever meet. So Gowen and Benny the Bull dialed into Reds baseball tonight. It's like putting the old band back together again.
Sounds like your fan club.
No, they're not. They're not fans of mine. Had to put up with me for a long time.
Tell you what, DeJesus puts together some pretty good at-bats. For a guy that doesn't get a lot of playing time, now he's going to get just about as many at-bats this year as he did last year, somewhere around 200 plate appearances overall, way more than he's ever had previously in his big league career.
Well, he's been a nice find for the Reds. Didn't make the team out of spring training last year after a very good spring when they brought him in. Wound up spending a lot of the year with a big league club. And here since day one this year.
I mean, his career was at the crossroads. I mean, he was considering maybe beginning to hang it up if he couldn't get into the big leagues again. Saw an opportunity here, and boy, he really took advantage of it. And he had a horrible month of April. Came on a lot stronger in May. I want to say it was July. He had about 350 in July. Every time he turned around, he was hitting the ball hard somewhere.
And it's nice having his pops around, too. He's in town a great deal, has been for a number of years.
Looks like he can still play.
Yeah, he does. He pitched this at bat. Slow bouncer. Reyes can't find the handle. And at least you put the ball in play. Make him make a play. And now the tying run will come to the plate.
Reyes cuts right in front of Cabrera right here. Now that's the right play because anything the third baseman can get, he should try to get. He's got his momentum going towards first base.
It's an error on the New York third baseman. And here's Tucker Barnhart. He has 7 home runs on the season. He is a tying run here in the last of the 9th inning. In the air left field, backs up Cespedes, but he'll get there. Reds down to their final out. Eugenio Suarez, 20 home runs on the year. Strike one. Suarez comes off the Reds bench. Hoping to run into one and hit it a long way. Tie this game up. Oh, he had a good cut. But Familia now has him around the neck. Had nothing in 2. Smoker, the pitcher of record, as is Lorenzen for the Reds. The 0-2 on Suarez. Did he go? Yes, and that's the old ball game. Suarez can't believe it.
Boy, oh boy. Neither can Brian Price.
Five runs, 8 hits, and errors, 7 left for the Mets. 3-5-1-7 for the Reds. Smoker 2-0, Lorenzen 2-1. Familia save number 46 after this appeal. Strike 3 call down to first base. So the Mets go for the sweep tomorrow with their top gun on the mound in Syndergaard, and the Reds top starter DeSclafani will start it. Miller time moment. Reds were up a run until Cespedes clobbered this one off Lorenzen to straightaway center. Gave the Mets a 1-run lead. They would tack on one more on the Diaza home run in the 9th off Wood. It adds up to a 5-3. New Yorkers win. Reds Live, the postgame coming up. Jim Day, Jeff Piecoro and company standing by on Fox Sports Ohio.